Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live webinar on how to strengthen and build your immune system. It's important to think of our immunity in a broad sense, first of all, in understanding what it is. And I'm just going to use the Ayurvedic perspective because I feel it's easier to grasp. You know, in Western science, we look at the white blood cell count, we got the lymphatic system, we've got the spleen, we've got parts of our endocrine system, all working together, T cells. And Western world looks at it from this microscopic point of view, how the antibodies form and etc. But in Ayurveda was, of course, healthcare system designed thousands of years ago, so they didn't have microscopes. But they knew the function of these functions that take place at a cellular level and on the different parts of your body that are helping with your immune system. For example, even your stomach acids are helping your immunity indirectly or very directly by destroying pathogens in your stomach acid. And, proper bowel movements is also indirectly helping your immunity. So we really have to think of homeostasis, having true health. In fact, in Ayurveda, having good immunity, or what is true health. So true health is having this immunity, or we say ojas in Ayurveda. But we could also use the word tolerance, that we can tolerate. We can tolerate the wind and we don't get cold. We can tolerate the rain and we don't get cold. We can tolerate the heat. We don't get too hot. We can tolerate these bacteria and viruses that are in the air and we don't get infections. So that's what we're really talking about. It's a kind of a natural tolerance. And often people who have this tolerance are very aware that they have this tolerance. So we could call this a type of immunity, but let's use the Ayurvedic term ojas. Ojas is like the essence of your all of your digestive process, all the nutrients that you've been digesting that have fed all the different tissues and the blood and the muscles and the fat and the nerves and the reproductive system. And then at the end, there's like a reserve of this ojas. And this ojas is kind of what's creating this tolerance. So it's not something that you can build up quickly overnight. We can't just take some cod liver oil and increase our vitamin D and then have great immunity overnight. We can't take olive leaf oil or eat garlic and expect our immunity to increase quickly. See, immunity, or ojas, is this, we can say ojas is this reservoir of energy that's behind all of the immune functions in our body. And when this ojas is there, there's certain signs in Ayurveda that you have this ojas, this strength, this immunity. And that is, you have vigor, you have energy, you have tolerance, you have endurance, and possibly most important, you have sexual stamina. That's the signs, according to Ayurveda, that you have good ojas. And signs that your ojas is low would be you're weak, you're frail, you don't have good appetite, you have low sexual stamina, you get infections and colds easily. And that tends to be more towards the person who has high vata, or vata prakriti, which is a skinny, cold, dry, light person. So if you're underweight, most cases your ojas, or your immune strength, is less. And so we can see this. Some people who are a little overweight, you notice they don't get sick. Maybe they just get respiratory congestions and mucus, but they don't get the infection. Well, we have a person who's depleted and underweight, fasting a lot, skipping meals, then we find that these people have less tolerance, less endurance, less kind of internal strength. And this would be a sign of low ojas. So it's good to look in that perspective first, to look at yourself and to try to gauge yourself in, where you are on this spectrum of having good ojas. And those are the qualities that you want to look for. If you're having to take coffee and to get through the day, then you more than likely are fatigued and you've depleted yourself, and your ojas, or your resistance or your tolerance, will be lower. Despite taking maybe supplements, vitamin D, zinc, everybody's taking. But if you still have this in low ojas, then you could be very susceptible. So that means if you're young or old, if you're thin, weak, underweight, particularly dry, dehydrated, low body fat on your body, and then, or even having some issue with your reproductive system, then these would be signs that you're depleted, your ojas, you have no reserve, and would make you more susceptible. So to build your ojas, you don't want to be depleted. You want to be strong. So fasting, skipping meals, just having salads all day long, trying to lose weight is not the right direction. But before I talk more about what we can do to build our ojas, our immunity, our immune strength, I want to talk about some of the things that we do that decrease our immunity and our strength, because this is very important. So all sugar, stimulants, coffee, chocolate, all these things that are giving us energy without eating are actually depleting us ultimately. So if we have superfoods like, spirulina, wheatgrass, things like this, then these are strengthening and building. But if we're just having a Red Bull or some cup of coffee, and then we're not eating a meal, then we're wired, and our nervous system is agitated, and our muscles are going, and we're moving, but we're depleted because we didn't eat, so we become more susceptible. So this person often crashes at the end of the day. That crash is often a sign, the person was depleted and they were living off of the energy of these stimulants. Children do it on sweets, adults do it with coffee, and there's many other stimulants out there that we can become somewhat addicted to, and these deplete our immunity. Also, over-exercising, over-exerting ourselves, depleting ourselves will actually lower our immunity. This would also include excess sexual activity, would deplete us of our reproductive fluids and make us weak and more susceptible. Doesn't mean you don't have any sex. No, it didn't say that. Just you have to be moderate, and you have to allow the body to rejuvenate itself again. And other things that we do that make our immunity weak is not sleeping enough, staying up too late, reducing our sleeping time down. And of course, if you're having some type of health issue like nocturnal urination, where you're having to get up at night to urinate and you're not sleeping well, then indirectly that is reducing your immunity. Anybody who's fasting a lot, detoxing a lot, trying to lose weight instead of trying to strengthen could actually end up depleting themselves to the point, even though they may be big and they feel they're losing weight, but because they're doing it so fast that they're depleting themselves. So we need to be resting. We need to be eating 2 or 3 meals a day. We need to be strengthening ourselves and having nourishing foods that build and strengthen ourselves. No radical diets where we're leaving out all carbs or leaving out all animal protein. These may be suitable for therapeutic reasons if you have certain health issues, but not in the case of building immunity. Another common reason for low immunity, and what a lot of Ayurvedic doctors are talking about right now in India, is poor digestion. When the digestion is poor, there's no appetite or a lot of gas, bloating, constipation, acid reflux. These are all signs of poor digestion. When that's taking place, particularly no appetite, you're not eating until 2, 3, 4 o'clock, then this is low stomach acids, poor, weak digestion. Then you're much more susceptible to infection because, as I mentioned before this webinar started, is that even our stomach acids are part of our immune system in helping us to break down or let's say, kill the pathogens that we digest. So if we have too much mucus or congestion in our respiratory system, then this also can create an environment for infection, respiratory infection. So we want to keep our respiratory system clear, and we want to keep mucus to a minimum. So most people during this period, to avoid respiratory infection, is to not have any dairy and keep our digestion strong and our appetite strong, and be cooking with spices and ginger and black pepper to keep our Agni, our digestive fire, as strong as possible. And this is very important. Many Indians now in India are saying this when they're presenting their different treatments for this virus in India. It always includes something to keep the digestion strong. So a weak digestion, again, is basically no appetite, low stomach acid. So that's why in that type of case, that person could do well with a little apple cider vinegar, a little pepper, little ginger tea, things like that to increase their digestion. So we're moving into what we can do. First, and that's the first thing we can do, is keep our digestion strong, to keep our immune system strong. Because if our digestion's weak and we're having malabsorption, which, most of my patients, 80, 90%, are all coming with some form of digestive problem and malabsorption. So when you have malabsorption, you're not absorbing all the nutrients. And when you don't absorb all the nutrients, you become nutritionally deficient. And when you're nutritionally deficient, we know that our immune system is dependent on minerals, particularly zinc, and vitamins, particularly oil-soluble ones, vitamin A, vitamin D. And when we don't have good digestion, whether it's intestinal digestion with the stomach acid, or the absorption through the small intestines, or even blockage in the bile or the gallbladder, blockage of bile in the gallbladder or liver, where we're not having enough bile and we can't emulsify and break down our fats properly, and then we can be low in fat-soluble vitamins like D, E, and A. And then that can lower our immunity. So you need to be having good digestion, not snacking all day and grazing, and having healthy, full meals. Now, of course, in Ayurveda, every person would be recommended to have different types of meals. So once you've got your digestion good and you're eating good, you're not going out to In-N-Out Burger, or, and you're not snacking all day and not having fast food, you're cooking home-cooked foods with natural vegetables, then you can take some supplements on top of that. Now, of course, one of the easiest is just to take cod liver oil. This is Norwegian cod liver oil with a little lemon flavor. And we know cod liver oil has been used for centuries because it's got D. See, it's got vitamin A, 17%, vitamin D3, 100%. This is in a teaspoon. And then some E. And then there's DHA and EPA. So this is very good for your brain, very good for your immune system, and particularly if you're not getting enough sunlight. It's better just to get sunlight. Here in Southern California, it's been sunny the last few days, and it's been very enjoyable going out into the sun, and I feel my body really needed it. But before that, when it was overcast, then, I was taking the vitamin D every day. Another one we can do to just build our immunity is olive leaf. We covered this before in other videos. And this is kind of a Mediterranean treatment there. It says super antioxidant on it. Yep. And immune supportive. This one's peppermint flavor. Very tasty. There you go. Now it's nice and clear. Olive leaf. And Barlean's is a nice company, nice family-owned business. It says health tonic, immune support, seasonal wellness. There's a reason people used it for centuries. And of course, if we did the research, we would find that, this is olive leaf oil is producing more white blood cells. But, it's much more than just what we can measure out of our blood. It's the fact that our strength is there. That's why a lot of immune boosting substances don't necessarily have to be strong. We also have garlic, not to say, the old Russian antibiotic. I mean, you can bake it, you can cook with it, and you don't want to have too much of it if you have acidity or heartburn. And this wellness formula has been used for a lot of people for colds and the flus. It's very good, and I think it has even garlic in it, oregano leaf oil, olive leaf oil. It's a very rounded formula, and I've been using it for years to fight colds and flus, particularly when I'm traveling. And then black cumin seed oil, used by Middle Easterners, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, was the cure for all health conditions. And apparently they did take this during pandemics in the past, black cumin seed oil. It's also very heating and hot. And one guideline a lot of Indian doctors are saying right now during this time is to not have any cold food, no cold food, and have only warm foods and hot foods, and don't do any cold drinks at all. And, we can't, for the Chinese, of course, they're mostly doing mushrooms. I just have these in the capsule here. But in fact, I have reishi mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms. But these are like a little nice to take here. And you can see it's a mix here of different mushrooms. And this also will boost your immune system. Now, of course, mushrooms can be a little drying, so you don't want to overdo it. For vitamins, again, you can always take a little zinc. We know zinc has always helped to build immune strength and avoid infection and fight infection. Let's see what we got. A few other things we can do is even salt, rinsing our mouth every day with salt, cleaning and gargling with salt water. Somebody I was speaking to in Mexico says that's all they're doing down there is salt, gargling with salt water. Now, a few Ayurvedic tips are to put oils, or this is a nasa, in your nose. And if you don't have one of these products, even in India now, they're recommending people just put even just a little sesame oil in each nostril. And this one clears your nasal passages. This one's got some herbs in it, so it clears the nasal passages and then lubricates them. And this protects you from viral infections coming through the nose. So in fact, in India, they're talking about now the different ways that we can be infected with a virus and how to protect ourselves. Of course, we have through the nose. So that's why we put the oil in there with the herbs. You can use sesame oil with just a little bit of neem oil and just put that in your nostrils. And then rinsing the mouth with salt water to disinfect the mouth, and then gargling, whooshing around or doing a little oil pooling with sesame oil will also help to protect the inside of your mouth. But keeping the mucus down in your chest is also very important. And in fact, in Ayurveda, they're recommending people get oil massages over their whole body to ground them out, strengthen their immunity. I didn't mention, and I'm so glad I remembered, that another very big immune reducing activity that we have is stress. And we know that when we're stressed or in this so-called fight or flight mode, that, our digestive system stops. So, I mean, just that alone is going to weaken you when your digestive system stops. But a lot of your immune functions will also be depleted with a high stress when all this cortisol is coming out and you're wired. So it's very important to stay calm and to stay relaxed in this type of situation where you're concerned about your immunity. And there's many things we can do. We can have relaxing tea, sleeping tea, relaxing herbs, sleeping herbs. I didn't bring those up here today, but I have many videos, webinars, and YouTube videos on home remedies to relax and to sleep better. And that will help you. Let's see here what else we got in our bag. We've got, just taking good vitamins. This is a nice brand, this Garden of Life. It's a food-based vitamin. I wouldn't be taking just cheap synthetic vitamins unless you have no choice. That's Garden of Life, vitamin C there. So this is definitely will help you. We can't say it's a cure, but what we're talking about here is not cures. We're talking about resistance. We're talking about tolerance, and that's what's very important. It's really the soil theory, not the germ theory that we're advocating. Ayurveda accepted that there was pathogens that they couldn't see. They called them unseen worms because they knew about intestinal worms. And then they knew there's ones in the air that are moving around from, even they knew they were coming from contact with people, but they were considered unseen. But they were aware of them. They just couldn't see them. And so they just figured they're part of nature. Because we know there's just millions of bacteria and viruses out there today. So they were right in that degree. So they didn't really worry about disinfecting outside their body. They focused on making sure that their soil themselves was strong and had this tolerance, had this good ojas. So let's see, we could talk about some herbs. Of course, Western herbs. Here's a list of Western herbs. It's an immune tea I have, and we can look at these ingredients here. Echinacea, very popular, been around for a long time. A little peppermint for flavor, a little hibiscus, vitamin C, antioxidant, lemon peel, vitamin C. Licorice, we know, is soothing, mild antimicrobial qualities. Cinnamon, also mild antimicrobial qualities. Cardamom just makes it taste nice. But this was good at preventing the cold and the flu. If you have an actual infection or cold, then you want something a little stronger. This one is for cold and flu, and supports the immune system. There's an echinacea again, and then sage, just what the American Indians drank when they had a cold. And then Oregon grape root, which is now what we use mostly instead of other herbs for infection, and oregano leaf. Or you can do oregano oil. There again is supported by licorice, ginger, and cinnamon, which are also antimicrobial, antiviral, and then thyme, which gives it a nice flavor. But the main ingredient there is the Oregon grape root. It's really backed up by the oregano leaf and thyme, and supported by licorice, ginger, and cinnamon to helping your digestion. And then a little echinacea for the overall immune system. Very effective. Had this tea for a long time. And everybody who says they've had a cold or a flu, they take it just a few days and they see themselves improve quickly. You're really just supporting the immune system to process the pathogen and to be successful in its battle. We're not ridding ourselves of the pathogen or virus in this case, but we're just supporting ourselves to be able to fight it. And that's another reason why you don't want to be underweight and weak, because when you do have a serious viral infection and you have a fever, then you need to stop eating. You need to fast and just have juice, and you need to rest. And you could have to rest in bed and not eat and not exercise, not have sexual activity for 1 to 2 weeks. Now, during that period, you're not going to have much appetite, because most people, when you have a fever, don't have much appetite, and you shouldn't be eating when you have a fever too. So to allow the body to focus on building and defending itself and recovering. But if you're underweight, then it's very difficult to not eat. So that's why it's good to have a few extra pounds and kilos there. In case you get a viral infection, you can just fast it out for a week and not pass out from depletion. So you never want to be underweight. You always want to keep a little extra reserve in case some pandemic comes around and you have to fast, or you've got no food, or you have an infection or a serious health problem, and you're going to fast. So it's always good to have that capacity to fast, and that's why you need that strength, little extra weight. So definitely not a time to be dieting and skipping meals. Here's Indian formula, and this is what all the Indian doctors are pretty much recommending now in India to avoid infection. And you can see they have a very low amount of infections based on their 1.3 billion population. Tulsi tea, and I have 3 types of Tulsi. There's actually 5. This is Rama Varna, and Krishna Tulsi. So even better when you have 3 different types. So this is better than just one type of Tulsi. And then cinnamon, ginger, and black pepper. And the black pepper is there for that digestion, that Agni, that digestive fire. And see, it says add some lemon or raw honey. But don't put the honey in, of course, when it's hot, or you'll just destroy the healthy bacteria in the honey. And honey itself is a super immune boosting. You can just be taking teaspoons of raw honey. It doesn't work if you buy the pasteurized honey, or you buy the honey in the supermarket mixed with sugar. No, it doesn't work. It has to be raw, and it should be local. It would be better. But raw honey has great immune boosting and ojas boosting qualities. In fact, Chawan Prash, which I didn't bring here, is the Indian immune supplement. I mentioned it in all the other videos, and it's made of honey and ghee and herbs, particularly the herb amlaki. And even the Indian government posted that they recommended all their citizens have Chawan Prash, which you can buy in the health food store if they haven't sold out, and a Tulsi tea, which I just showed you. So all Indians know about Tulsi tea. So they're all drinking Tulsi tea, and they're all taking this Chawan Prash. And there were other guidelines the Indian government made too, like having hot foods, warm foods, don't have cold foods, don't have ice cream. So they made a lot of very useful guidelines. And of course, even the Chinese posted all the herbs that they were providing people even in the hospitals, and what the local herbalists were using. So, many of these countries are using herbs already to avoid infection and to fight infection. Now, here's other products that are just helpful in building: vitamin mineral tea. Instead of drinking water all day long, water it's not building and strengthening. See, we got building and strengthening. So here you're going to do better with this. Is alfalfa nettles full of vitamins, and horsetail is also full of minerals. There's a hibiscus and lemon peel for the vitamin C and the antioxidants, and a little cinnamon, coriander, and stevia make it a little sweet and tasty. So, this is more healthy for a child to be taking every day than even water, and they like it. So we sell that. So these are the main things you can do to improve your immunity. Have good digestion. Don't have cold foods. Have hot foods. Protect your body by putting oil in the nose, cleansing your mouth with salt, oil on your body, and then taking some nutritional supplements. You can take some D, some zinc, some vitamin C, food-based, hopefully, not the cheap ascorbic acid. You can be gargling with the salt water to cleanse the mouth. And you can have some tea, even if you just had ginger, black pepper, and cumin, and tea, and cinnamon. This would be still nice and hot. Many Indian doctors are now saying, sip hot tea. Even if you don't have the tea, just hot ginger tea, or just hot water that wash any type of accumulated mucus that's accumulated in your mouth down into your stomach acids, and keep your stomach acids very strong. So there's a little burning, there's a little hunger. Then you're washing these pathogens that you may inhale or get in your mouth, your throat, or your nasal passages down. And also they're encouraging neti pot, cleaning the nose with the neti pot. You just put a warm water in that little neti pot, and with some salt, and pour it through your nose. Pour it through your nose. I should do a video on that. I forgot my neti pot too. And they're recommending this in India to clean out the nasal passages, disinfect the nasal passages, just not allow mucus to accumulate in the nasal passages, because this is our main area which we are susceptible to having infection. So cleaning out the nasal passage with salt water, and then putting a little oil in there to lubricate it is encouraged in India and in Ayurveda. And of course, if you have any respiratory condition, respiratory congestion, we have many formulas for respiratory. This one is for, respiratory congestion, productive, for mucus, snoring, bronchitis, productive cough with a lot of phlegm. So this will clean you right out. Mix that with honey and take it a few times a day, and will cleanse you right out. So it's important to cleanse the bronchi, the alveoli, the lungs, and to get rid of this mucus. And if you have any mucus now, then you can do steam in the room with eucalyptus oil. You can stop all dairy, all mucusy forming foods. No yogurt, no ice cream. These would be counterindicated at this time because they're cold and congestive and don't make the right environment for keeping strong. So, I hope these guidelines help you to improve your immunity and to feel this vigor and strength. And we even have people are talking about ashwagandha. We have a formula here. It's just called adrenal formula. You can see ashwagandha is the first thing, and then vidari khan, which is a potato bala, which means strength. Brahmis for the mind. There's tulsi again, cinnamon, licorice, and cumin and ginger. So this would still build immunity, and ashwagandha would build strength and stamina. So that would help. We also have another one here made of ashwagandha called Vitality Tonic. It's basically fermented ashwagandha and herbs, and also good for, it says increase energy, sexual vitality, and digestion, weakness. So this would also build immunity for a weak and underweight person. So if a patient came to me and they wanted to build immunity and they were weak and underweight, then I would give them some of these strengthening, building herbs as well to help even put weight on them and get their digestion strong so they're hungry. And if a person's overweight and no appetite and heavy and lethargic, then I try to clean them out, help them to lose weight. So for some people, losing weight could build immunity, and for other people, putting on weight could build immunity. Because what you want is balance, homeostasis, where you have good digestion, good elimination, good sleep, all the systems in the body are working well. And then you will have the strength and vigor to have tolerance against outside pathogens. Okay, well, I went through a lot here. I don't see much else. I see some things for respiratory. I think that will be a good webinar, and you're welcome to watch this webinar later and share it with other people. And if you have concerns about building your immunity or fighting infection or improving your respiratory health, or then please contact me, and I'd be happy to do an appointment with you and provide some of these herbs and dietary guidelines. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.